All right, what's up, y'all? Very hopefully a quick video here, as I just want to hit up some things and talk about my plan for season one. What I'm going to be playing, anyways. Right? I don't have a real plan in terms of how I'm going to play or anything, but what I'm going to be playing. This is being recorded literally the night before the season starts. It's like, as of right now, the calendar tells me it's already July 20th. So not even 12 hours before the season started. It's just because it took me so long to work out the idea, make sure everything seemed like it would be somewhat functional on the patch. 2 day patch, 2 days before, really reminds me of the old days of PoE, when we would get the patch notes on a Tuesday, gem info on a Wednesday, league start on a Friday. Very much reminds me of that. Except for whatever reason, league start is on a Thursday, which I find kind of cringe. But whatever. So, what am I playing? Well, Frozen Orb. Frozen Orb, you say? Yes, Frozen Orb. Why Frozen Orb? Well, here's the idea, right? I was looking over the patch notes for things that got changed so that I could play something on Sork again, because I really wanted to play. It was either going to be Sork or Necro, and I couldn't bear myself to do slow Necro again for for a start. So Sork again, sure. But I didn't want to do Ice Shards again. Arc Lash got nerfed too heavily. I'm not the biggest fan of Fire Sork yet. So what do I have for options? And well, I saw that their Frozen Orb enchantment change first, and I was like, yo, wait a minute. Maybe I played Frozen Orb. Then I started looking a little bit further into it. So the enchantment, pretty good effect. That's basically 30% DPS increase on just spamming Frozen Orb, but it also means that like teleport and whatnot will spawn Frozen Orbs every so often, which is really cool. Then Frozen Orb has a pretty solid personal aspect. That's the one-handed value on the screen, but the 30% of his damage, you can get it to 60, but I'm going to be using one-handed and offhand. I think it's just better than two-hander. Then there's also now there's other things that I'm going to be building into the Talrasha's gem, or Talrasha's Malignant Heart, which is the percent damage for each unique element you deal damage with. That is literally like actually just like Talrasha is very aptly named if you've played previous titles. And then the Omni Power. The one at the bottom right. Core skills that launch a projectile consume all of your mana. We're going to be scaling around this in the long term. And so that's the whole idea. I wanted to play around all of these pieces together. I think it's going to make for a hell of a character, but we'll have to see how that goes, right? So let's get to moving. Let's see how I'm making this character real. And it starts, well, why Frozen Orb, right? The buff is a large part of it, and the aspect is good. The biggest thing is that Frozen Orb is a very like a very high clear speed skill. Has incredible reach at base. Actually better than like even like so like ice shards, even with like access to freezing on that. The reach is actually the reach on ice shards is mostly linear. And Frozen Orb has much better like coverage. Plus the skill is iconic. I just wanted to play Frozen Orb again. I haven't played it in years, right? So I think it's gonna be awesome to finally get to play Frozen Orb. Hopefully this actually works out, because I haven't tested this idea yet at all, right? But hopefully this works. All right, other things we're going to be running in the build are the big three of Sork. At some point, I might talk about like these three skills as a problem in the game, but for now, that's just the way it is. As a Sork player, you will run Mystical Ice, though. You will run Ice Armor, and you will run Teleport. And you'll notice that before them, I put the name of the upgrade, the final upgrade that we're using on them. I do use the vulnerable upgrade on Ice Nova, the DR upgrade on TP, and I actually only use enhanced Ice Armor just to get the mana regen during barrier. The extra upgrades are just not good enough to me. Then we have some other options for buttons here. So this is the interesting part, and I just realized I'm covering up something here. So there we go. So here's the part where it gets kind of interesting to me. I have found a couple skills that I think would all kind of work for different reasons on the character, and I have an idea of what I'm going to be testing at first, but I have a feeling I know where it's going to end. So I should actually say at the bottom of what you see on the screen here, the most obvious one is Blizzard as one of your extra buttons. It's just a damage button. Cold damage, can chill, it like all works together. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. relatedly, Prime Inferno, just grouping enemies on your ultimate, that's going to be pretty good. But I think that one's going to need to be later in the character's lifespan when you actually have CDR to work with. And it might not be as necessary as I felt like grouping was on Ice Shards and Arclash, just due to the fact that Frozen Orb has actual reach. But we'll see how I feel about that when we get to playing. Shimmering Flame Armor is just an incredible defensive button, right? As an option, it's cuttable, but you can't. I would say once you start pushing into Nightmare Dungeons, Flame Armor becomes pretty mandatory to play the game comfortably. And then the other two that I was looking at were Conjuration skills. Summoned Hydra for the burning effect that it could provide, because burning scaling is just pretty important, but it is a pretty expensive source of burning. And then there's also Summoned Ice Blades, which is a way to get some CDR back into the build, which is something that I think the build is desperately missing after the changes. You know, this patch took away 35% of our CDR. Summon Ice Blades would definitely be a nice way to get that back. And then Enchantment Slots. Now, this part's a little bit more rigid, right? Back in the last slide, but Frozen Orb is pretty much a given. It's literally just your damage button. I don't know if you can really get away with not having it as your enchantment. But I did think of some options on the third one, because so Firebolt's suggested here, and like my plan for now involves burning scaling at the high end. But I actually avoided burning scaling for a while. We'll talk about this later. So Firebolt's not as mandatory. I think early game Fireball is pretty hard to beat still. Just for the clear speed, right? The other thing is Ice Blades as an enchant will allow you to spawn Ice Blades by spamming skills. Or spamming your skills with cooldowns. I think that could be pretty cool. Not sure how good I actually think it's going to be, but it could be pretty cool. Relatedly to Ice Blades, I didn't have it on here because it's still something I'm like kind of like messing with the idea of. But you can do a similar thing with like Hydra. So you summon Hydras without paying for them. But I still don't really know. There's also, I think it's Ice Armor that has, but there's another one that like actually has like or not Ice Armor, Frost Armor maybe, that has another like decent upgrade, but I'm just not sure. So I didn't really think too hard on it. These are the three supplementary options I think I'd recommend. You could even go Ice Bolt or whatever the name of the skill is, the like ice generator, if you wanted to use one of those for just chill, even more chill on hit. Couldn't actually, might not be too bad of an idea. Doesn't work for what I'm doing though. So you'll see some sample skill bars that I have here based on the recommendations that I gave on the previous slide. And you'll notice Frozen Orb and its enchant are always taken. The big three that I labeled, Ice Nova or Frost Nova, Teleport, Ice Armor, always in the build. Everything else is just kind of based on what I think is necessary. So like I will just like front outright. The second one on the list here is actually going to be my default setup, I think. Running Blizzard and Inferno alongside Firebolt enchantment. Once I get to that point, because Firebolt enchantment is necessary to activate the Talrashas, as well as I think Firebolt enchantment could do a really good job of if I run the Elementalist glyph in the early game again. I think that's another way to activate that. The other one that I'm looking at pretty heavily is Flame Armor plus Blizzard. But this largely depends on how much I think Inferno is necessary. And then you'll see I have some other options. Like I think Hydra for burning while running either, realistically this Inferno could have been changed out with Blizzard or Ice Armor or Flame Armor or Ice Blades in the third one. But running it with Fireball enchantment so that you only actually have burning on like big targets, but you have Fireball for enchant for better clear. Like there's options here, right? And so play around with these. Like I really do give these as suggestions for you to play around with more options than what I have here. Other things to talk about. So how do we scale this character? Damage time. I'm looking here and noticing I didn't put on the damage page that we do scale through specifically burning as well as chill, but like whatever. But how do we scale? Damage nodes are always good. Vulnerable damage and crit chance and damage, even after the nerfs, are still top tier scaling stats. Same for main stat. Rakes to Frozen Orb, Rakes to Icy Touch, or Frost, or Devouring Blaze in the burning setup, all still very good. Now, where I would say Devouring Blaze is lower priority than Icy Touch or Hard Frost, though, just because of the nerfs. and especially to the non-immobilized section as we're not running an immobilizing skill. Now, where this really kicks up though is the damage, the regular damage. That's like core skill damage, burning damage to burning enemies, damage to chilled enemies. All those nodes, I think those have gotten a lot better on gear. You know, between they got a percentage increase of their own and percentage decreases on the other stats. I think overall this makes for a recipe where the gear versions of these are actually very strong. And you should see my warning at the top, right? Before you have your glyphs at 15. And I said three or more glyphs because I think at about 3 glyphs is when you'll start to have a reasonable amount of percent damage. And even I think I could have said 4. Before you have glyphs at 15%, damage is very good because what the advice to not put percent damage on your gear, right? Like, oh man, 21% core damage is so bad because I have a glyph that's giving me 142% damage. You know what I mean? Like before we get glyphs to that point, you know, we're level 90 plus. We have glyphs at 15 plus. Like until we get to that point, percent damage is actually really good, and that's actually like a part of one of the better things of this patch is that we have a lot more percent damage to work with in our mid game now. And then the gem emerald, as always, we are a crit build that can vuln things very easily. Crit versus vuln it is. And weapon base wands, because daggers, while not entirely useless for us, lucky hit is very strong because we're going to be running avalanche as our key passive for a good portion of the game. And even when we're not running avalanche, we still need the lucky hit procs to trigger blanking on the name of it, but there's a cold passive that restores mana. As a lucky hit against vuln targets. Very good for getting us our mana back. So you want both of the access to all of that, and lucky hit is just important for scaling those. Defensively, what do we want to do, right? Oh, actually, before I show that, back to the weapons real quick. You'll see here I have 2 examples of weapons that I use, right? And I made 2 very distinctly different ones. Like the left side one isn't even at the 725 threshold, but this is like a wand I'd be pretty happy with if I got it while I was in T3. Like if I'm still in Torment, if I'm still in Torment or World Tier 3, and this is the weapon on the left that I have here is a weapon I get, I'm very happy. That's still a lot. Like I still got main stat and 1 in the crit damage, but also now I have core damage and damage to burning enemies. I'd be very, very content with this weapon. But as I start to scale upwards as through the end game, I'm going to be looking for the weapon on the right. All stats is not explicitly the best stat on there, but I value all stats pretty highly for its interaction with the Paragon board. And just generally that the stats are actually pretty good. Like, you know, strength is armor, dex for crit, willpower for resource gen. Like they actually are good stats, and it's still also more int. But you could also just, instead of running all stats, put I think there would be another like core skill damage roll or something like that, right? But you can do whatever you want there. That was just like an idea that I had for what I would probably use that slot on. Defensively, the only super defensive modifiers in the game are life, damage reduction, total armor. So we're gonna want some of those. I do not have total armor as high of a priority as some people would. It's just because we're Sorcs. We do not actually carry that much armor. And so I'm not super fretting about total armor. You'll see like the test helmet I have there. Life, CDR, lucky hit with barrier, it. You'll see where my priorities kind of lie with, and I don't like that. We do use rubies though, because I want more life. Other stats that are really high priority. Ranks of Frost Nova and Teleport both make the build feel fast and good, but are also really important for keeping us alive. Teleport carries one of our a source of 30% DR in Shimmering Teleport. We need CDR on that so that we can keep it up as often as possible. So Ranks of Teleport, good. Ranks to Frost Nova is also good because freezing things means they aren't hitting us. Freezing things means they take more damage from us. Freezing things means they activate like the sub passive on Winter, for example, on our Winter glyph, for example. All in all together, Frost Nova, very good skill, ranks here. Outside of that, CDR, mana cost reduction, resource generation. Those are the big 3 in terms of stats that we really want to care about on the character's growth. As well as, just because, you know, CDR is CDR. Even with the nerf, we still just want CDR. It's so good. Mana cost reduction is also a very, very good stat. It just makes it easier for us to spam our Frozen Orbs. It also is going to make me ask some questions when I get to testing it with the Malignant Heart of Overpower. But we have to get that before I can test it. But I have a feeling that it interacts very interesting with that. I mean, resource generation is good because if once we get into the overpower setup, especially like resource gen is already good for normal gameplay, but if once we get into the I need to take myself straight. Once we get into the part, the overpower part of the scaling of the game, I think resource generation is going to be a really important stat for us, allowing us to very quickly build up another mega nuke up for us, or whatever skill we choose to use at that point. Movement speed is movement speed. This is an ARPG. If you don't like movement speed, you're weird. And all stats, because I just really like all stats. Again, it's int, it's a bunch of other stuff, and activates Paragon nodes. Like altogether, really large fan of all stats. All right, some aspects that are very important. Let's start with the ones from the Codex of Power first, and you can think about these while you're leveling. Aspect of control, very very good. It's not on the screen here because they couldn't fit it reasonably. But aspect of control is the one that gives you percent damage against crowd controlled targets, whereas specifically it is against stunned, frozen, or immobilized targets, and we are a very high frozen build, so we can definitely apply activate aspect of control. A likely pick for my neck in leveling. Another good pick for your neck in leveling is actually Elementalist, though. Elementalist, it gives you 20% increased crit chance on your core or mastery skills when cast at or above 100 mana. We're actually going to use this to talk about another thing. I didn't mention this stat, but I think this stat is also very important. Max mana. It's a part of my planning and my Paragon tree, actually, to try to hit like at least one max mana node. And also getting mana rolls on both of my rings. And why both of my rings, you ask? Remember, we were talking about the overpower gem. We'll talk about it again later so I can show you why. But just remember that we're talking about the overpower gem here. Storm Swell and Elementalist are both really good at damage aspects. Prodigy's aspect is an incredible source of mana in the mid and late game. I think in the early game, I would lean on aspect of the Umbra more, just because for mobbing, you will be crowd controlling enemies all the time through Frozen Orb. Frozen Orb has a chill application on hit, and so you'll be able to really take advantage of it that way. And then aspect of might and aspect of disobedience are just good generic defensive aspects you can get from the Codex. A lot of the other ways of getting defenses are non-Codex. What about what about something we could drop? So let's start with the right side of the screen actually and hit the obvious one. Harlequin Crest is a Abyss item for us. That item's not real. Forget you see it. Like you see Harlequin Quest right there, right? It looks really gorgeous, right? Oh my god, look at the stats. Look at how nuts this item is. Yeah, forget it exists. You're never gonna see one. If you do, use it, but I don't think you'll see it. Similarly, Riven of the Infinite is actually a chest piece that drops. I managed to get mine to drop while I was level 99. I was actually 2 dungeons away from hitting 100 when I dropped my Riven of the Infinite. Very fun, unique to play with, adds a lot of clear speed to a sword. I have no idea how necessary it is for a Frozen Orb character, but it is an option for something to use or test. Now, over to the other ones. What does it say? Codex of Power? Whatever. These are not Codex of Power ones. Actually, you know what? Miraculously, now it says drop only. So drop only aspects that we have here. Frozen Orbit is the one that we had on the weapons in the test in the screen earlier. Very important. I would say it's the most important aspect to try and you'll actually get this one for completing. I believe it is chapter 3 of the season journey this season. We'll give you a aspect of the Frozen Orbit for free. So perfect. Conceded is damage while you have a barrier. Exploiters is damage against unstoppable. Huge fan of all of those. Frostbliss aspect is a favorite of mine from like late in preseason. In terms of like finding its usability, Frostiva gaining additional charge but increasing its cooldown. And at first glance, the increased cooldown kind of sucked, but the additional charge has made it much easier to use and spam. It is worth noting this is something that is testworthy. I might not use Frost Blitz because Frost Blitz was more of a ice shards thing in particular. We'll see how I feel about it in regards to how Frozen Orb plays. Then there's an aspect of Fortune, which gives you lucky hit with barrier. They literally made an aspect for a thing that is a stat. I think that's why they nerfed the stat. And then Ever Living aspect is the only defensive drop only aspect that I'm really looking at. There's also Snowblind. Or Snow Grace. There's also Snow Grace that I feel like I should mention. Snow Grace is DR, similar amounts of DR, actually 20 to 25% for standing inside of your Blizzard. I just don't know if I'm defaulting to Blizzard forever, so I don't want to recommend it too heavily. But I know that I will always be applying CC or Vuln to an enemy, and therefore, Ever Living Aspect giving us 25% DR against targets that are Kraut CC'd or Vuln is insane. I'm pretty confident it's actually going to be better than Disobedience was for us, so or is for us now. So, huge recommendation to get that on your gear as soon as possible. Actually, not that rare any of these aspects. All right. Other things of note here are the Malignant Hearts. Here's the core of our build, right? So we look over at the top left. Cage Heart of Omni Power. Core skills that launch a projectile consume all of your mana. For every 35 to 45 mana consumed, you launch an additional projectile and the damage is decreased by 23 to 25%. This is the level 10, so this is the max level version. But the general gist of this gem is ideally I have, say, 140 mana. If I had 140 mana and I casted a Frozen Orb, I would be at max crit with good gear because of the Elementalist aspect. Plus, I would consume all of that mana to generate 4 additional Frozen Orbs, and they would do 100% more damage. And I think that combining those together would be all of that together would be really strong. But I have no idea how to test out the regen portion of the character yet. I'll have to do some thinking about how I'm going to regenerate the materials. As you see here at the bottom left, we have Cage Heart of Talrasha, which for each unique element you deal damage with, you deal more damage for 11 to 17 seconds, and you can get that 3 times. So that's going to come up to 36% more damage when it's all said and done. Very, very good effect indeed. Very classic effect even. And then there's Caged Heart of Tempting Fate. This is a very interesting one. It's a ton of crit damage, but your non-crits are piss baby damage. But since I'm looking at a build that is like very much hanging in the 100% crit chance region, I think this is the perfect time for that heart. 2 other hearts that I saw that I will need to think about to some very heavy degree. Caged Heart of the Barber gives crits and all of the damage right after a crit to be absorbed and then stored and erupted from an enemy. Could be a really fun way to augment clear speed or your actual single target damage. I gotta see how it plays out. I can't tell if it's meant to be a AOE augment or if I can use it for single target. So we'll see how I feel about that once I get to play with it. And the Cage Heart of Determination is a very nice resource one, right? The resource shading effects one, I'm actually not sure how that works or what that means, but 8% more resource generation is very nice. Especially if we're talking about using Omni Power, which is just the D4 equivalent of Star Pact for Meteor, for all the Star Pact Meteor players out there. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So that's kind of the idea that we're playing, bro. Now, that's a lot of the theory. Let's talk about playing the character some more here. Passive tree stuff. On the left side is how I plan on leveling this character, which is just going to be, we're going to level it. Arc Lash in the early game. Eventually, by the time we get to Blizzard, we're going to stop using Arc Lash altogether. Hopefully, I shouldn't need the mana like that. I should have ways to have my mana under control. We're gonna level with Frozen Orb. If Frozen Orb sucks in leveling, we're just gonna use Ice Shards. But I'm hoping it doesn't suck in leveling because I want to use it. I just like Frozen Orb. Very standard leveling tree from there. Cold nodes, defensive skills. We use Avalanche in leveling because it's free mana. Done. Note that's not in the image is that when you are using when you're using Arc Lash early on, feel free to take Flickering for the movement speed. And if you're curious why Fireball has a point in it, it's because we're enchanting it. The clear speed bonus is just too high. All right, now end game though we're a little different, right? You see no Fireball, you see no Arc Lash. Things are a little different. This is one version of the end setup. This is the non-Blizzard version. This uses Ice Blades and Inferno. This is one that was one of the ones I'm testing out, right? And so this one actually just uses self-casted ice would be tested on self-casted ice blades and no enchantment, but it's got Firebolt for enchant, then Greater Frozen Orb for enchant, and then standard nodes again with some burning investment because Devouring Blaze is still pretty solid, and it's worth taking if I'm going to use burning damage to enable Flame Feeder and the Burning Instinct boards. Paragon wise, let's talk Paragon for a second, right? So your glyph loading priority, pretty straightforward. Exploit definitely going to be your most highest priority glyph now to 15. Then I would go Destruction, Frostbite, Control, Flame Feeder, and Reinforced. Go to 15 in that order, then 21. But on going to 21, it might be worth going Destruction over Exploit first to go to 21, but I don't know the math. I didn't think too much about the math. I just know that those two are my first two. Early game, when I'm just like slamming glyphs on, what am I going to use? I'm going to be using Exploit, Destruction, and Imbiber in my first few slots. It gives me a variety of stats to activate based on, but also just percent damage from Imbiber, crit damage from Destruction. Exploit gives me full damage. There's a world where if I don't have enough crit for whatever reason, I will drop Destruction in favor of either Territorial, Control, or Frostbite. But I think I should have enough crit to make use of Destruction by then. And then boards that I plan on using this stuff on early, the Icefall board is my primary board. It has a lot of nodes that I like on it. Frigid Fate is our Vuln board. And then Burning Instinct or Ceaseless Conduit, both of these are good boards for getting another high value glyph socket activated. I would probably go Burning Instinct just so I can also start picking up the burning nodes. Because then we'll have Icefall's damage reduction against Chilled. We'll have Frigid Fate's damage reduction against Vuln. And we'll have Burning Instinct damage against this against Burning. I have a lot of DR playing in our favor. And Paragon wise, where did my image go? Guys, I figured out where my board went. I was just being quirky and put an entry on it without realizing I put an entry on it. But here is my endgame Paragon board plan. This is level 100, fully optimized, level 225 with 225 Paragon points. I say fully optimized just because I did spend a lot of time thinking about the pathing and trying to activate as many Paragon nodes as I deemed reasonable without needing gear. I think every rare node I care about is activated in this tree on just 100 levels and no gear. But you'll see on the left side I have the list, so you don't have to think too hard about the image. The image just mostly shows you my pathing through. We start on our main board, we put Exploit there, then we go to Icefall, put Frostbite there. On Frigid Fate, we put Reinforced. Reinforced is effect of rare nodes, and so we have a full damage rare node in its radius that we're going to be buffing. Very, very good node to have buffed up by Reinforced, and Reinforced also give me some DR. And then we're going to take all the bull damage on Frigid Fate. Then we're actually going to come over to Burning Instinct on the other side, because Burning Instinct is another source of DR plus a source of armor, actually. It's one of the only ways we can get armor on our Paragon board. And another source of damage. Ceaseless Conduit is a node just so we can, it's just more we want to use to activate control. There's some MS and damage against elite nodes that I actually really like on Ceaseless Conduit, but I couldn't find the points to grab them. And then Static Search is our last board, looking for Flame Feeder. Just to get damage there. And you might be thinking, why not Flame Feeder on Burning Instinct? Because Burning Instinct has too much dex on it to be wasting on Flame Feeder. That is a destruction board, 100%. This will be included. You can get here's a full image of everything that we got going on there, so you can see it more clearly. All right, next up. What in the world? Oh, right, yeah. That's everything. How did I forget that? Yep. So that's everything that I wanted to show you guys there. So that's the whole. Oh god. All right, and so that's the whole build. That's like everything that I've worked through Theorycraft wise so far. Like I didn't want to spend too much time thinking about Theorycraft because I wasn't going to play the game before the patch like that, and I would like to actually enjoy more of the theory live because I mean the base idea seemed pretty simple to me, and I just wanted to get this information out there for you guys so you can see it, think about it, ponder it. Maybe you choose to play Frozen or make it return back to your good old days. But I wouldn't recommend it because as they've been saying everywhere, Sork is dead. If you guys don't know, I'm heavy off the copium right now. I'm fueled by copium. So we're gonna cope together on stream. I'll be live tonight. Tonight as in, like, launch night, right? Launch night is Thursday, July 20th. I'll be live tonight. I don't know how early I'm gonna be going live, but you should just head over to stream like this evening, anyways. I'll be there playing the Sork. We'll be leveling and having a good time, right? The whole vibes, all that good stuff. Stop by. Thank you for watching the video. If you like it, leave it a like. If you have any comments about this format, because this is new to me, drop them in the comments. Give me some feedback. I would be much appreciated. And otherwise, I mean, hey, look, thank you for watching the video. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.